on Air, Nwokes on Air, Nwokes on Air.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 12th and last episode of the Nwokes on Air series starring Chidubem Okechukwu and Akim-Maria.
Here I am.
Topic of chilling. Recap, guys.
Yeah, the recap
Recap.
of the Nwokes on Air podcast. Wow. 12 weeks, 12 episodes,
Amazing.
12 random topics on Nigeria.
Yeah.
Do you think we covered anything of significance, Nwokes?
Do I think we covered anything of significance? Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think everything was significant. I think it started off very simple, ambitions, and just even in the first podcast itself, we were so successful. It just propelled us to be more encouraged. I think we've surpassed our expectations of how many things we wanted to talk about. Within one podcast, we talk about so many topics, come up with so many ideas, bouncing off ideas, and I think it was just so interesting, so fulfilling to release it all. We haven't obviously spoken about every single thing on our minds, but I think we've given a good shot of most of them. Yeah. I think we also educated a lot of our listeners too.
Well said.
Yeah.
When we started this podcast, my focus was
July.
Pardon?
Yeah. This was in July as well, just giving the chronological timings and no.
Sure.
This first podcast was July, yeah. Been a while.
Yeah, when we started the podcast, I had the intention of just basically trying to supply information that would propel people that are of a good nature to consider Nigeria and to try and understand what Nigeria is, as well as how Nigeria got to the situation it is with these problems, and how to help solve these problems as well. Obviously, there's no way that one podcast or one series or one season or two individuals on their own can solve the whole of Nigeria's problems. One of the episodes that really put this into perspective for me was the episode on tribes, which opened my mind up to the rivalry that Nigerians have when it comes to tribes. That was not really there for me before. I used to have the picture that tribes are very important to every individual, and other individuals respect this. I never really considered that other people could be disrespectful to other people's tribes. And this is something I think has fueled the rivalry. I think I heard stories of why Biafra. We didn't talk about the subject of Biafra much over the podcast, but there was the genocide of the Igbo people, as it were, which was not really undocumented, which is undocumented, but at the same time, the people that were alive back then saw it, and I've seen videos of people being gunned down who were said to be Igbo, and it's those were hateful acts. And recently Buhari said something about people that weren't born in the period of Biafra, trying to bring Biafra back. They should keep quiet because they don't know what they're talking about. I don't necessarily know how to feel about that. On the one hand, I'm thinking he's right. You can't just be making light of such a situation by just having a protest and shouting about it. But those people may also be misunderstood because of the small group. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're just making light of it. But it could also be the fact that Biafra has not been basically understood the way it is supposed to be understood by Nigerians for Nigerians to progress. I was also talking to a man from Delta State on a train ride once, and he mentioned that for Nigerians to move forward, we need to acknowledge tribes. And a lot of young Nigerians these days, I don't necessarily know that there's that much respect for the tribal origin, as it were, because I don't know, in the rest of the world, in the West anyway, it's like there's no real attention paid to tribe, and if you're being tribal, you're being a little bit backward in a way. There's that attachment to it that a lot of young Nigerians are seeing, and are kind of maybe shying away from it. I don't know, maybe they could be holding it to themselves that they're still proud, but a lot of people may be shying away from it. And as a result of this, it could also still, that same idea could be attached onto the Biafra idea for other Nigerians that are from Biafra, saying that we can't move Nigeria forward until the subject of Biafra is discussed, or any other subject that is as old as or as meaningful to an individual before Nigeria can move forward. And if that's the attitude, progress in Nigeria is even more difficult than I thought it was before the beginning of this podcast. And that's one of these things I've discovered along the way of this podcast. That rivalry, that those bad seeds sowed in Nigeria, they're there and nobody's really discussing them, and people are still trying to make progress and and making a type of progress where that kleptocracy that we discussed in one of the episodes is alive, and that's not right. We need to really clear a lot of the undergrowth, the jungle before we can actually move forward. And I don't necessarily know that there's a department that's doing this in Nigeria, and we need to establish one to move forward. That's my
Yeah.
finding on this episode, on this series.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely, I mean, Nwokes, we're chilling, no? So don't be, you're getting academic about it, but this was not really meant to be such an informative episode, because for once we just want to talk about how it felt to make all the other episodes. But I'll briefly just add that I definitely feel that way as well about people's lack of interest in cultural heritage and why that lack of interest exists.
Oh, you can feel free to discuss what you want to discuss. I'm just saying what I've learned on my own personal journey of this, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that I've discovered this, because it's something.
I've read that as well.
I think I naively stepped into the idea of the podcast, not thinking that this was there, and I'm just being humbled by the fact that I've discovered this. It's really meaningful. It's brought me down to earth a lot, and I just hope that as a group that we can get it together. Obviously, the fun parts of the podcast as well. The organizing ourselves to get this thing going. The times we try to meet up in London so that we can have a bloopers reel as well.
Which did not work.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But yeah.
Yeah, the bloopers were amazing, very, very funny bloopers, I would say. I think Onyekachi, because I know you're probably going to listen to this, your surname has your surname has been protected, has been defended, has been remodified over because of many podcasts behind the scenes. Just have to appreciate that Akim is not people and it's not easy to pronounce it. I think that's always been a funny blooper. I think the episode where we spoke about him and then the surname thing happened was the episode where we were talking about the guy who rescued a few people in River States and he drowned in the process. I can't remember talking about that, but I know we spoke about that. That was what we were speaking about. What was this Citizenry?
Yeah, it must have been Citizenry.
Was it for Citizenry or just before that? Something like that, yeah. So that episode, that was a blooper that was funny.
Institutions, maybe?
Institutions, yes.
It could be.
Institutions, yeah. Institutions. I would encourage people to make podcasts. You learn a lot, and even listen to yourself, listen to the things that you've had in your mind that you've never really articulated properly, or giving yourself a chance to challenge what you thought helps you to grow and to learn, and help you to as well truly understand what it is that you think. So, always everybody always says that I'm passionate about changing Nigeria, I'm passionate about making a change and blah, 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 but do they really know what they are saying? Have they challenged them? If somebody got into an argument with you and said that Nigeria is okay with the way it is, nothing is wrong with Nigeria, what would you tell them? Would you just get angry and shout back at them? Or would you actually have solid points to make that would even change their mind or how they think about it themselves? I think that's what the podcast has done to us as well. We thought we just had ideas and they were great, but every time we get on the podcast and Akim is asking me questions, and then I made it just one statement. It's forced me to have to think about what I really have said. Even if I've always thought about it before I said it, but then to keep thinking about it and keep having reasons why I've said it and to keep backing it up. And I think, and me doing the same thing to him as well sometimes, I think that's very important for anyone who think they have very strong views about something positive to keep reevaluating those views, especially when it's about something as important as your country, because you can imagine that if you don't even know why you think so strongly about such matters in your country, then a foreigner wouldn't stand by you if you can't even explain it to them. Like on the global forum, if you're getting into an argument with another head of state or president, and you didn't really have much to say, you just thought you had an idea half baked, but you didn't really have everything to back it up. I think it would be sad if in that very crucial moment you're not able to stand by what you said because you don't really have such substance behind it. So I think it's very important to think very well about what you think about Nigeria.
I agree. I think that's an added goal of this podcast, as you mentioned, because like I mentioned, when I walked into this podcast, I thought I had strong arguments for Nigeria and why it was the way it was. But going over this podcast and trying to um, research on topics for the content in the podcast even made me realize that there's so much more to Nigeria that I don't even know about. You know, a lot of the times, when I talk about Nigeria, it's usually um, second-hand experiences sometimes, but I still draw my own experiences. But in terms of that embezzlement situation, like Nigerian money and that aspect of politics, the government as well, I've not really experienced firsthand um, that embezzlement of that embezzlement situation. I can't really tell you what goes on there, but it's a situation where I feel the effect as a citizen of Nigeria, and I see the effect as well. And I read reports from like websites. I hear David Cameron go on television, even though it wasn't going on television to discuss it directly. He was overheard saying that Nigeria is a corrupt nation, and those kind of things don't really sit well with an individual that actually wants the best for Nigeria. And I just hope to remain that kind of individual where I can continue to add and contribute to Nigeria, the country that is amazing and I grew up in.
Definitely.
Yeah. Shout out to the UK though for giving me a platform to um, study this on, because in Nigeria there's a little bit of chaos that you're actually living the experience that you hardly ever get a chance to stop and think like what is really going on here, unless like you have the luxury of that, like maybe being an academic or somebody studying the country of Nigeria. So the UK has really helped me to have a place where I can like take a break to study this.
A good. I know what you mean. Like it's being away. Actually, in a way, gives you clarity as
it does.
I think talking about Nigeria from Nigeria is different things.
I think so. I think so.
Exactly, you are able to chill and talk about it, not when you are frustrated. You're talking about it. It clouds your vision. So I think that we're very privileged to be able to have this opportunity to talk about it this way. In a relaxed environment where we are not particularly facing the problems of it, and by God's grace, when we are in Nigeria, finally like forever, and we're talking about it there, we can also talk about it in the same ease that we talk about it now, because that's what we would hope,
Amen.
That will never change our perspectives on it. But
yeah, for real, Nwokes. That's been a real one right there. To all the listeners that have been loyal and been listening, thank you so much. We appreciate your love. Dedicating this to all those people that would have loved to do a podcast but never got a chance, maybe because of one reason or the other. Just appreciate the guidance of the teachers and people that always kept us going. Because starting a podcast and finishing one is not easy. All those the English that we're speaking right now. From the teachers as well. Really, really respect them, and thank you for the love and support for all the people that I've met on the road and shared the link with, and shared the link, and they've given this a listen and a chance. Very, very much appreciated. There are many more projects from us in the future as well.
Exactly. I'm about to say, don't think this is the end though. We're still here.
100%. 100%. definitely
so back,
appreciate the
back
support.
in
So
again.
keep going,
Uh-huh.
and we'll always make a better world by always thinking positive.
Yep, positive. Works reloading, that's what we call part 2.
Woo!
Work reloaded. Watch out for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any final comments, Wilkes?
No, I think for any young, old, whoever you are person that's listening about to start listening to these 12 episodes, I think take your time, be analytical as possible, be objective, and you get the best out of it. Yeah. That's what I'm
Awesome.
saying.
Awesome. Yes. Here's to a great future, people.
That's a great one.
End of season 1, episode 12. Wilkes on air. Out.